In this episode, we're going to talk about one of the biggest nightmares for dealers, that being the problem of the nightmare employee. Every dealer that has been around for more than a minute has had this problem, and probably more than once. Nightmare employees take the focus away from the rest of your dealership and cost you money. Today, we're going to talk about a strategy to deal with nightmare employees. So stay tuned for this episode of Down Payment.
Welcome to Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers. Prepare to learn something new about the industry that keeps us moving.
Check out all our podcast content on our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X. Welcome back. In this episode, we're talking about nightmare employees. If you've been in this industry for any length of time, you've undoubtedly seen this, and you've seen it more than once. We have all had this problem. The key is you've got to handle this problem in a way that doesn't make the problem worse. And that really is going to be the big takeaway from this episode. With a nightmare employee, you come to a fork in the road with them. And so you either have to correct the problem and make them not be a nightmare employee, or you end up with termination. And ultimately, that decision is made by the employee, not you. But we have a few kind of pieces of advice, if you will, as far as how to navigate that. And the first one is don't make errors. Now, this sounds kind of silly, but it actually is a really big deal. Nightmare employees have this tendency to make us frustrated and angry. And when we get frustrated and angry dealing with an employee, the dangerous tendency is that we say something dumb. And when we say something dumb, it means we are making potentially an unforced error. We're taking an HR action that we shouldn't be. We're saying something we shouldn't be saying. We're doing something that can create liability for the business. And so you have to make sure that you don't allow that nightmare employee to literally get under your skin. This is where the stress management side of the business, the de-escalation stuff that we've talked about in previous episodes becomes so important. You have to maintain your calm. You have to be the center of the storm. You can't make these unforced errors. The second key to dealing with a nightmare employee is getting good HR advice. You have to, for your business, if you have any number of employees, you need to have some sort of source of good, high-level human resources advice. Now, this could be an employment law attorney or some other HR professional that's not an attorney. There are people that have credentials and education and background and certification that make them qualified to give advice on HR matters. In a future episode, we'll talk about what one of those people might look like and how to find those type of people. But suffice to say for this episode, the big thing is you have to have someone that you can go to get good HR advice that is specific for your jurisdiction. It's not sufficient to have a HR expert that is 3 states away. You have to have someone that has expertise in the laws and the jurisdiction that you are in. And this is an important point to also make, that AI and Google searches are inadequate for finding the answers to HR legal questions. So AI just in general doesn't do a very good job in providing legal research. It doesn't have a good strong ability to distinguish between sources of law that apply to your jurisdiction and screen out sources of law that do not apply to your jurisdiction. So don't trust legal advice, HR advice from AI and a Google search alone. You need something better than that. The next thing you need to have EPLI insurance. In the automotive industry, with our HR intensive environment, you need to have employment practices liability insurance. It is a must in this industry. You can follow good advice and still get sued. And when you still get sued, even though you have tried to do everything right, that EPLI insurance is absolutely essential to protecting your business. After that, our next piece of advice, follow your HR processes. You want to be transparently, fair, and consistent in a manner that is documented so that a neutral third party, whether it is a court or the EEOC or some state regulator, anyone that comes in, they look at this case and they're going to have the same impression that you have given a good, honest, transparently fair, and legal treatment of this employment problem. And you've followed your policies and procedures, you followed the law, and that there is no violation on the part of your business. This might also include something like using a performance improvement plan or a PIP. This is something that you do with an employee that you're about to terminate and you're giving them one last chance to improve their performance. You have documented exactly what they need to do to correct. You're giving them resources and training and everything they can possibly get in order to improve their performance. And if they fail to still improve their performance, they would be terminated. That's a performance improvement plan just in a nutshell. And the idea is you're not setting the employee up for failure. You are trying to give them a good, fair, honest chance to correct whatever HR problems you're encountering with them. And if they fail and are terminated, it should be plainly obvious that it is their fault. Now, the next piece of advice is a really key one, especially in smaller operations. Unless you are a very small operation and only have a small handful of employees, you want to have a layer of management below you as the dealer principal to handle your problem employees. You want to have a general manager that can take the lead in dealing with a problem employee. If you as the dealer principal are directly handling the problem, you represent the highest liability for the company. And that means that there is no one above you to correct your errors. Whereas if you have a manager or even a couple layers of management dealing with a problem employee, there is always someone above them that can come in and potentially fix the problem. If you handle that or you circumvent your management as the dealer principal and you make an error, there's really no easy way to fix that error. Errors made by you as the dealer principal are potentially representing the highest potential liability for the company. Now, the final piece of advice for dealing with that nightmare employee, keep your business on track. There is a piece of advice that pilots receive in their training when something goes wrong and they're dealing with an emergency. And that is first fly the plane. And that's true here as well. You want to keep your business on track. Don't let that problem employee damage your business while you're dealing with that HR situation. Be professional. Remember, this problem too shall pass. Your business has already undoubtedly been through a lot of challenges that you've overcame. This is just another one. Don't talk about the employee to other employees. Don't make the problem bigger than it has to be. This too shall pass. And if you follow this advice, you're going to get through it. And this is the best way to deal with nightmare employees. Good luck. And remember, go sell some cars. This has been another episode of Down Payment. Check out our podcast on all our social media channels. We are at Down Payment Podcast on YouTube, Down Payment Podcast on Instagram, and Down Payment Pod on X.
Thank you for listening. Down Payment, the podcast for used car dealers, is a production of Meta Financial Services Incorporated.